Yo, what's good with you? Back in black with another Enlisted video. If you guys are new to the channel and you love shooting games just like me, make sure you aim for that like button and shoot that subscribe button as well. It'll help you find better teammates and improve your skill-based matchmaking. At least I hope so. About a week ago, Enlisted released an update that changed the BR ratings for a plethora of weapons and vehicles in the game. Not only that, they followed up the BR changes with better matchmaking, saying that they finally collected enough data to confirm that they can separate the equipment-based searching even further than it had been previously, which in theory will allow for more fair games on average, as opposed to playing against people who usually always have better or worse equipment and vehicles than you, dependent on your faction of course. The first thing I would like to say to all these changes is that I am highly appreciative and I partially feel listened to as a player, and that is a great feeling after putting in 1800 hours in this game. Not that I'm the only one offering feedback, but they did literally drop the MP 3008 down to BR1, which was one of my main suggestions in my previous works, which I'll put up on the screen right now. But since they're changing stuff around, it does affect a lot of my rankings from my previous videos, so I figured it would only be right to make updates to what I told everybody weeks and months ago, at this point. Thankfully, they decided to do this change, before I covered a majority of the weapons in the game, so let's get into it. I suppose I'll start with Germany and Italy since I already mentioned them earlier, but originally in my BR2 Axis submachine gun video, I claimed that the performance of the MP 3008 was so lackluster in comparison to its contemporaries that it warranted consideration for being dropped down into the BR1 tier. The more you think about it, the more it makes sense, especially considering it's just a copy of the Sten SMG, which is also a BR1 weapon. And I also want to say shout out to all of you guys that commented and liked that video, because it was one of my better performing ones, which means that more than likely that feedback reached the developers in some capacity. But since the weapon is now going down to BR1, I do want to re-rank those for you as well. Originally the rankings were the Beretta M38A in first place, the MP34 in second, and the MP28 in third place, but now with the addition of the MP 3008, I am going to rank them as follows. The MP 3008 will now supersede the Beretta M38A for first, due mostly in part to the 32 round magazine and better recoil than the MP34 as well. The Beretta will now slide into second place, the MP34 will now slide into third place, and the MP28 shall remain in last place, which I think is actually a very fitting spot. But those aren't the only changes that we got to talk about for Germany and Italy. We do have some re-rankings and shifting around for our rifles as well, as the Carcano M1891 is also being dropped down into BR1 from BR2, which I also think is a very good change considering that the fire rate is among the lowest for bolt action rifles generally speaking at 48 rounds per minute, and among the other BR2 rifles this one was definitely ranked dead last for me. Now that it's in BR1, if you ask me where I would place it, it would definitely be better than the Carcano M41 due to the stats and the iron sights being basically identical, but this one, the M1891 that is, has more damage. The only reason I'm even toying with the idea of placing it higher than the Kriegs model is because it has a higher fire rate, ever so surprisingly, and an addition of the bayonet. But the iron sights on the Kriegs model is definitely better, so fourth place out of the 7 rifles is a much better place for the Carcano M1891 in my opinion, now that it's in BR1. On the American and British side of things, we do have some re-rankings to do with my BR2 submachine gun video, as they are now dropping the M1A1 Thompson down to BR2 from BR3, which again is a very lovely change because only having 3 weapons in that category with 2 of them being of British origin is indeed a bit of a downer, so now we get more variety for our low tier American players, and they get to use an iconic weapon much more earlier than they would have otherwise. But in terms of overall rankings and what I would change, previously the rankings were the Lanchester in first place, the M3A1 grease gun in second place, and the Owen gun in third place. But now with the insertion of the M1A1 Thompson, I would rearrange the rankings as follows. The Lanchester will still remain in first place. The Thompson is going to slide into second place. The M3A1 grease gun is going to be third, and the Owen gun is going to remain in last place. Although the M1A1 Thompson is an excellent addition to BR2, it has a few drawbacks keeping it from exceeding the Lanchester. Most notably, it's going to be the bullet velocity, which for whatever reason is still congruent to the M3A1 grease gun, which means you'll have to do a lot of shot leading with the Thompson unless you're like right in somebody's face, while the Lanchester almost doubles that in bullet velocity. We also have a smaller magazine, albeit by 2 bullets. Another thing you may not care for is the higher recoil on the Thompson compared to the Lanchester, with a 40 vertical and a 15 horizontal recoil stat. The only saving grace on the Thompson is that it's stronger, so I guess if you don't mind the lessened versatility and you're better than average at controlling your recoil and leading medium range targets, then you should still have a good time with the Thompson overall, and especially enjoy that novelty now that it's more easily accessible. Moving over to the Russian side of things, these changes were a little more iffy to me because at the current rate, Russia now only has 2 BR2 options as far as rifles is concerned, with the Winchester remaining in tier 2, and I do understand them leaving that in a tier of its own because it was the superior option along with a brand new semi-automatic rifle. But basically they have now decided to drop the Mosin M91/30 rifle and the Mosin M44 carbine down to BR1, which now gives us a total of 5 rifles to re-rank. So as far as doing that, still remaining in first place for me is going to be our handy dandy Mosin M1938 carbine with its superior iron sights and fire rate. Second place is now going to go to the Mosin M9130 rifle, which also has some really good iron sights and better damage to maximize your one hit potential and range, but at the cost of a slower fire rate. And the same thing could be said about third place winner, which is going to now be the M91 Dragoon variant, but this one has slightly worse iron sights in my personal opinion. Fourth place may surprise you, but in my humble opinion, I much rather use the iron sights on the 1907 carbine than the M44 carbine, even if it has a bayonet on it. Not to mention the M1907 carbine is a starter rifle, so it's going to be free to upgrade. The reason I'm putting the M44 in last is simply because the iron sights on it are very obtuse and more of a pain to use outside of close range compared to the other rifles in the tier. The last faction we gotta take a look at is Japan for re-ranking those BR1 rifles, as we are getting one new addition, the Type 99 rifle, the late version to be precise, and that brings us to a total of 4 rifles. And looking at this rifle, it kinda shocks me that this one evaded being out of BR1 for so long, because when you see the rate of fire at 42 rounds per minute, you think that it was a starter weapon. But anyways, going into my re-rankings, the Arisaka Type 38 rifle is going to remain at first place for having a superior iron sight and rate of fire. Remaining in second place is going to be the Type 38 carbine. The sights are not as good on this one, but the rate of fire being substantially higher than the other 2 rifles is reason enough in my personal opinion to make up for it, especially if you're really good at aiming in general. Third place is going to go to the Type I rifle for being slightly faster than the Type 99 at a fire rate of 48 while having a superior shot deviation as well. And then the Type 99 is obviously going to go into last place for the previously mentioned rate of fire. I will say the iron sights are more preferable on this one, but when you look at the shot deviation and just the simple fact that it shoots pretty much as slow as it possibly can, there's just no reason to put it anything higher than last place. And again, I wonder how it even evaded being out of BR1 in the first place, but it is what it is. Overall, I just wanted to give my updated opinions on all of the weapon groups that I already did videos on, because it would just, kind of irk my soul if I didn't, correct what was recently updated. But yeah, I do want to know what you guys think down in the comment section. How do you feel about these re-rankings, and I guess how do you feel about them doing this update in general? Are you generally positive, negative, kind of sitting neutral in the middle? Just let me know down in the comment section, and I do appreciate you very much for watching. Don't forget to aim for that like button, shoot that subscribe button as well, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Black Guy out.